HOPEHIV is an organisation that works with children and young people in sub-Saharan Africa who've been made vulnerable by HIV/AIDS.
Nervous. I was nervous about how I'd feel getting out there. I think I was nervous about how I'd react to people, how I'd react to the situation itself.
I felt quite excited to be going. I felt quite privileged.
Initially I was very chuffed. I thought it was brilliant. I was really kind of interested to see what HOPEHIV was all about.
ZASO stands for Zanzibar AIDS Association and Support of Orphans, and what ZASO aim to do on the small island of Zanzibar is counteract some of the kind of awful child abuse and neglect that goes on there.
ZASO was the first project of the trip, so I think we were all a bit apprehensive about what was going to happen. I think they took us on a dirt road for about 30 minutes before we arrived, and we pulled up to this sort of courtyard where they opened the doors and there was about 50 orphans standing there singing to us at the top of their lungs, which was amazing.
Immediately it kind of hit home in terms of the challenges that they all face, really.
And when we got there, we met this amazing woman who was running this project for, you know, the HIV and AIDS affected orphans in that area. It was quite a small project, but in a way that was probably really good to start this on a small project on our first day. And we learned very quickly about child rights and the issues that these kids are facing once they become orphaned, and how the project is doing, you know, making steps to try and, you know, educate their guardians and the community, and even just getting these kids to kind of be on the map.
The children were, you know, certainly better behaved than a lot of the classes I've sat in over the years. Maybe it was just because we were there.
AFREDA stands for Action Relief and Development Assistance, and AFREDA exists to provide support to guardians of orphans. One of the projects that AFREDA supports is a community banking scheme. So they provide little pockets of money to these women to support the activities they do to provide money for their family. So it could be, you know, selling drinks by the side of the road, it could be making clothes, anything like that.
We got to meet groups of women who had taken in orphans because they had nowhere else to go. And then as a result, the project was providing them with vocational training and with loans, and they were taught how to develop a business. For instance, if we give you a sewing machine and one of your family gets sick, don't sell the sewing machine to get money for medication. Try and keep that.
The guardians are supported by setting them up with small businesses, given them some funding, again, but looking at the long-term goal, not just giving them money. It's very focused support.
The travelling to get to Sparrow's Nest was pretty immense. It took a whole day to get to the area. It didn't help that we were pulled over by the police in the morning. Oswald had told us that effectively if we look like tourists, we do have a chance of being pulled over by police, and hey presto, we were.
I think as soon as we drove up, there was like the drumming started, the dancing started, and it was just pretty incredible, really. Like there was people singing, you know, it was all a bit of a feast for the senses, really. So instantly we were kind of like, wow. And then just we got the warmest welcome from them.
If you like, it was a kind of microcosm for the whole work that HOPEHIV does, and you could see within this small community all the different initiatives and projects, and you could see how they were having a real benefit.
One of the things that the guys at Sparrow's Nest had arranged for us, which was a complete surprise when we arrived, was the unveiling of a plaque which they'd arranged. They asked us to stand around with a giant pair of scissors and actually cut the ribbon on the opening of the new community centre which they'd built there, which is just an amazing feeling. I think that everybody on our trip found that a little bit emotional, if I'm quite honest.
We learned how that now that they have this community centre, they don't have to rent buildings anymore. you know, for their schooling. So, you know, instantly it's another example of how HOPEHIV is very sustainable.
One thing that sort of struck me was and I was really impressed with, was the goat pass-on scheme, whereby families with orphans are given a goat. They use the milk from the goat to obviously, you know, to feed the children, and that provides some really important nutrition they wouldn't otherwise get. We talked to one girl, and you know, she would go off to school before she had the goat. She would maybe go off to school without any breakfast or any kind of nutrition. So, you know, the milk in itself is a big, you know, is a big positive thing. Once the goat then has a kid, that kid is given away to another family, to another orphan who's able to support that goat. So that immediately has another positive impact on another child.
AMPCAN stands for the African Network for Prevention and Protection Against Child Abuse and Neglect. AMPCAN is actually a very big organisation that works across a number of different countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
They provide education to children, specifically within schools.
What really impressed me with these guys is they were young, really young administrators, and they just had a passion to make a difference.
And it really brought it home that these are real people with real lives that are on the ground, that actually need the support and the funding of a charitable organisation like this, and that is their main worry of the day, is that will this funding continue? And I mean, what Mark and Kasia did say was obviously, you know, a smile communicates everything, and it was absolutely true. So you know, these people just completely react to that. You just give them a smile and they'll smile back to you, and then you've sort of broken any barriers down already.
One of the most important things I think they told us was the fact that we should try and crouch down to children. So try and be on their level, on their eye level, which was fine for someone like myself. For Will, I think it was a massive physical challenge. The kids just got neck ache looking up at him, really. I don't think they'd ever seen anyone that tall before. You
know, you just take a photo of them on your camera and you'd show them the picture, and they'd sort of come towards you and gradually, you know, warm.
The bubbles went down fantastically. They were really good. A load of us standing around blowing bubbles to 500 children is actually a really good way of getting through to them.
Once you got there, you just sort of realised that, you know, we kind of are all the same at the end of the day. Everyone loves their kids, everyone wants to try and, you know, just live a good life.
Got to know Stu talks a lot, and Gemma's still really bad at singing.
For example, in one of the vehicles we found an old USB, so we plugged it into the stereo, and it was the most horrendous selection of sort of 1980s power ballads, I guess you could call them, but we suddenly had a sort of chorus of, well, I mean, you could loosely call it singing, but, you know, with Gemma, to be honest with you, the thing with Gemma, she actually thinks she can sing.
Johnny trying to blow bubbles with the children, getting very distracted, holding out the little bubble wand to them, turned back around and one of the children has got it in his mouth like a medicine spoon.
Funniest moment of the trip for me was when we were at Sparrow's Nest. We decided to split up into two groups to save time so we can visit as many of the projects as we possibly could. Bad decision to make was putting Gemma and Kasia in one group and Will, myself and Mark in the other group. And as we tailed off, going from one different part of the village to the other, these children pretty much all tailed off to Gemma and Kasia. Will and I walked to the first house to visit, and we turned around and there's one boy behind us.
Humbled.
Understanding.
Inspirational.
Epic.
Motivating.
I'd just like to thank everybody who's contributed so far to all the events and activities, and also for your ongoing support. It really makes a difference.